Kings. Hey, light the beam. Light the mother effing beam, dude. That was an awesome season. What a success. Um, Now, here are the two versions of a team that can lose in the first round and one be a failure, one be a success. Obviously, that Giannis quote that floated around the internet for, 8 hours and was super buzzy. Some people thought Giannis was being super inspirational when he said the Bucks season wasn't a failure. Hey, and I at first agreed with him, but I took a step back and I was like, no, it was definitely a failure. Like, dude, you won 16 games in a row. You were easily you're the most dominant team in the NBA this season, and you were the betting favorites to win the NBA Finals. Not to win a first round series, not to win one game in the playoffs, but to win the NBA Finals. And you walk away with really just a gentleman's sweep in the first round. And I know the circumstances were not the most fortunate for the Bucks, but you only won the game in which Giannis didn't play. You won the one game in which Giannis didn't play. So I know, sorry, it sucks. I could never be an NBA head coach. I have no idea what it takes, but I think just watching the games, you could tell that Spo was kind of running circles around Bud, and maybe not even that, because Bud is a really good coach, but maybe it's more so just sometimes your voice just, when it's the same voice for 4 or 5 years, it doesn't really ring out like it once did. And Coach Bud has got a place in this league, right? Like, for sure. But it's just probably not with Milwaukee anymore. And obviously the Giannis injury, the timing of that. But like I said, the one game they won, it was without Giannis. And I'm not saying that they were somehow better without Giannis, but it's like, when you did have him, you didn't capitalize, at least. Like, we can at least acknowledge they didn't capitalize when they had him in the lineup, right? And, it sucks. It sucks. And they lost in 5, and there's really no excuse. If they lost a grinded out series in 7 and Giannis played for the majority of the series, or didn't play for the majority of the series, then maybe it's a little bit of a different narrative. But I think the Bucks, where they're at now, they cannot come back the same this season. And I think the Coach Bud thing, I think the two most obvious he's out of there guys for different teams heading into this offseason are Coach Bud with the Bucks and Dylan Brooks with the Grizzlies. I think those are the two most obvious, like, he's out of there kind of guys. And Dylan Brooks was actually announced to be out of there this morning for the Grizzlies. So, yeah, there you go. Sometimes it's just not working out anymore. And I think they need a new voice, and I think they're going to I think they're definitely going to exercise that and look for a new head coach this offseason. Middleton is a free agent. I like Chris Middleton. I don't love Chris Middleton. I think, being a Celtics fan, of course, I pushed back on the narrative last year that if the Bucks were fully healthy, they'd beat the Celtics. But I mean, maybe so. And Chris Middleton's a damn good player, but I got to be honest with you. I wasn't wowed with him this season. I don't think he was lighting the world on fire. And I know for a while there, he was still kind of hurt. But hey, he's a free agent. They're going to have options. They're going to have choices. They're going to have ways that they can retool this roster. They're not going to rebuild the roster. You don't do that when you have a superstar in their prime like Giannis, especially one who's so committed to your city. And when you're a small market, you just do the best you can to retool on the fly. Drew Holiday was awesome, but clearly was gassed at times trying to guard Jimmy Butler, who was just absolutely out of this world for most of that series. And now you're already seeing it with the Heat winning game 1 in MSG. But that's the Bucks. Can't come back the same next year, okay? On the flip side, the Kings lose in the first round, right? But they lose in a much more honorable fashion. Game 7 against a borderline dynasty in the Golden State Warriors. Steph Curry was insane. I mean, that Game 7 was way more about Steph Curry being Steph Curry than it was about the Kings or about the Warriors. It's just, that was his day, and he had to absolutely go all the way out, balls to the wall, and he did. He knew pretty early on in that game, and I think everybody knew pretty early on in that game that the rest of the guys didn't really have it. And Clay and the supporting cast gave them, I feel, just enough. They all just gave Steph just enough, and Steph just took the rest. He took the rope and pulled them out of that game with a win. And awesome. Just an awesome, one of Steph's best, most memorable playoff performances. I don't know if it's his best. It's really easy actually to just be like, man, that was it. That was his best one. But it's like, well, given the circumstances, given the weight, round one, I know, but regardless, insane. More so on the Kings side, season was huge success. You had the longest playoff drought in NBA. It was NBA history, or I mean, obviously it was the longest active playoff drought. Hey, look, you can't win them all, and you actually made it to the playoffs, which was a success. And I think you could feel that for them whenever they clinched a playoff spot. And this was an awesome stepping stone to what I feel like the Kings are kind of here to stay, right? I mean, De'Aaron Fox was excellent, and up until he broke that finger, really went toe-to-toe with Steph, and kind of like was his own weird version where they both were averaging 30 a game and leading their teams. And I don't know that Fox is there yet where he can have that kind of, he couldn't go out there and do what Steph did in Game 7. Not yet. Too young, too inexperienced, needs some playoff reps under his belt. He's finally got some. Breaks the finger before Game 6. Still, I think, goes out and has an awesome Game 6. You could tell it was bothering him a little bit, but he still shot really well. Still had an awesome game. And then Game 7, you could start to see it. It just kind of started to unravel pretty quickly there for the Kings. And you could tell Fox really was starting to labor with that finger some. This was huge. They need to make, I think, minor changes. And I think they will, because I think that's a smart front office now. You could say what you want about the Halliburton Sabonis trade. I think it's pretty obvious that that trade was a win for the Kings. It's not a loss for the Pacers. It's just a win-win trade. If they rolled out this team with this same team, but just swap, say Halliburton's in there for instead of Sabonis, they don't make the playoffs. I don't think they make the playoffs. I don't think they have a shot. I mean, and if they do, they're not going Game 7 with the Warriors. Okay, so Sabonis is awesome, and he did not have his best series for sure. You could tell he's a guy who could probably really use some more reps in the playoffs. And I think that's something they need to look to add, is somebody who can help take some of the physicality, some of the strong, kind of the dirty work duties off of Sabonis, so he can just be an offensive wizard, which is what he is. And I think the Warriors played him really smartly. They kind of gave him that mid-range and let him make decisions. And he actually just wasn't very good in this series. And sometimes he would just miss a lot of open shots. And I don't know. I still love Sabonis. And I still think he is awesome, and they need to build around him and Fox. But you look at it and you say they're kind of missing something. And I think having another guy, another big man, maybe it's off the bench, maybe it's somebody. It doesn't have to be a freaking prime DeAndre Jordan, dude. It just has to be somebody who can come in and share some of that weight, some of that physical weight. I loved Keegan Murray in this series. Keegan Murray was awesome as a rookie in a playoff series. I did not know that he was going to be playable, given that he's a rookie, given that he has zero experience in this type of scenario. But he showed huge poise. He showed huge poise, and that's what this team really did all year. They showed huge poise. They were excellent, and they were awesome at home, and that crowd really deserves this. And light the beam, man. Light the beam. Can't wait to see what they do next year. Keegan Murray, I think, takes another step forward. Just we'll see what they do with the roster. Just a light retool. Not even a retool, maybe just a small addition. Just feels like they're missing a small piece. But I loved it. The Cavs, you guys need to get guys who don't suck. It's pretty simple. When you are out there with 2 or 3 guys who you don't really have to guard, it's gonna be really hard to score, because then all the focus, that's what it felt like. It felt like all the focus was on Mitchell and on Garland. And it is, because those are the two guys. Those two guys are extremely talented, offensive, just juggernauts. They can score the ball. They can play make at a high level. They're excellent. But it felt like they always needed a wing. It felt like they needed a backup big. It would have been awesome if this team had Kevin Love. Oh, wait, they did have Kevin Love. And then they traded him, or bought him out for nothing. So there's that. And now Kevin Love, you can say what you want, but he's playing meaningful minutes on a second-round playoff team. And looks like the Cavs really could have used some of that Kevin Love magic. But Kevin Love, is anybody, and I tweeted this, but is anybody better at anything, like in the world? Is anybody better at anything in the world than Kevin Love is at outlet passes, deep outlet passes? No, I don't think so. Is Taylor Swift a better singer than Kevin Love is at throwing deep outlet passes? I don't think so. No, I don't think so. I don't think so. Is Bill Gates a better inventor and innovator and businessman and investor than Kevin Love is? Okay, I'm getting carried away. Look, point is, don't give up guys when you think you're going to go on a playoff run that you might need. And I don't know, I guess the Cavs just thought they didn't need him, but it was pretty clear they could use a backup big guy who they could at least trust and put on the floor. Kevin Love, obviously a guy who's been there, done that. You don't get rid of those guys, at least not for nothing. Not for nothing. Okay? The Nets. For the Nets, I literally just wrote cute. And we're going to keep it at that. Cute. Mikal Bridges, fun. We're going to see what this team looks like for the full season under their belt. Nets, cute. Hawks. The Hawks, I have a unique perspective on given that while I watched pretty much every single playoff game in the first round, I have a unique perspective with a team that played the Celtics because I watched every single minute with intent. Trae Young, I went into the series saying, I'm not worried about Trae Young. He can go out and he can shoot the ball 40 times, which he did pretty much every night. But I'm not worried about Murray. I'm not worried about this team. I think they probably steal a game. And they actually stole two, and they stole one on our home floor. So that was aggravating. You knew they were going to get game 3, but it was just a bummer watching them steal a second game. But regardless, the Hawks are interesting. They got Quinn Snyder now. They look different once they got him. Maybe that's just that new coach. Okay, slight hiccup in the recording there. I looked up and it looked like I wasn't recording, like QuickTime glitched or whatever, and it looked like I wasn't recording. Anyways, it was, and I have an awesome blooper that I'm going to post to YouTube of me just having, you can just see like the life escape my eyes there for a second. Anyway, we were talking about the Hawks and this dilemma that they have where, and I'm just going to cut to the chase with it because we need to get into some of the second round stuff. Trae Young is a beautiful maestro of offense in and of himself, where he is everything you'd want offensively from a modern generation point guard, virtuoso, whatever you want to say. I can't sing his praises enough after this series where, and I think I mentioned this prior to the technical difficulties here, but I went into this series with doubting Trae Young, doubting the Hawks. The Hawks as a whole, first off, won some of my respect, but really Trae Young won me back. And I say won me back because there was a time where Trae Young really won me over. And it was probably a couple years ago, probably like all the rest of you, where while we can all admit that was a bit of a fluky Eastern Conference Finals run, damn it, they made the Eastern Conference Finals. So we could sit here and say that it was a fluky run or whatever, but during that run, he won me over. He is an elite passer, one of the best. It's actually incredible given the fact that he is a smaller player. He's an incredible passer, excellent vision, but he picks his spots when he wants to actually play, make, and pass. And I think he needs to. This is gonna sound weird, this is a guy who can score 30 he can score 40 on any given night. He needs to adopt a more pass first mindset sometimes. There are going to be times where, it's the game's coming down to a close. You need a big shot. You go to Trae Young. You just say, hey, go do your thing. But I think the Hawks have more talent than we give them credit for. And the fact is, when he was at his scariest, I think it was partly because he was demonstrating that elite vision. And who throws a better lob pass than Trae Young? I don't think anybody does. It's kind of very Harden Capella-ish, and it's actually Capella who he's often throwing these lobs to, whether it's be Capella or Okongwu. He takes a C plus, B minus level center, and just capitalizes on their athleticism and their size, and just puts a beautiful lob pass up there. When he throws a lob, I think I could go up there and catch it. Now, I'm 6'1" and have vertical of maybe 20 inches. So, not likely. But the fact is, he is an offense in and of himself, and I love what he showed in the back half of the series. The first half, not so much. The first 2 games, Boston did a great job with him. He missed a ton of shots in those 2 games. I think he really started to find it. And I think he has a place in this league as a superstar level guy. I don't know that he's the best player on a finals team. Actually, I feel like I definitely know he's not. But given the fact that he is an absolute net negative on one side of the floor, he is just a horrific defensive player. But no matter, he is an excellent offensive player. And if you put him on a team that has some great defenders around him, some size around him, I kind of compare it to the Donovan Mitchell Cavs thing. But you see Donovan Mitchell and Garland, while they're an undersized backcourt, they do try hard on defense, and Mitchell, when he's engaged, can actually be a plus defender. So maybe not, but I think Trae Young is so good offensively. I don't know if Atlanta is his long-term home. Maybe he needs to change the scenery, but that's my thing on the Hawks. I also wrote that he was just devastating to root against, because it felt like, the shot that went over Al Horford, it was just, or Jaylen Brown, to put us away in Game 5. Everybody in the gym had to know that he was going to take that shot. Everybody, except for Jaylen Brown, of course, because he was playing 4 feet off of him and let him have a good look at the basket. Anyway, that's my Hawks thing. It was interrupted by some technical difficulties, but that's all I have to say about the Hawks. Anyway, Timberwolves, it could be worse. Not much else to say. Nobody should be rooting for that trade or cheering that trade that they made for Gobert. It could be worse. Anthony Edwards is excellent. He had some low points, especially in that playing game where he was 3 for 18. But ultimately, he's a guy you can build around. He's an excellent player. And damn it, if he's anything, he's passionate. Even if it means swinging a chair, WWE style, at arena employees or fans or whatever it was whenever he ran off the court. I think I was the only guy who's noticed that on TV when Edwards sprints off the court, grabs a metal chair, just swings it. And I know it wasn't his intention to hit anybody or hurt anybody, but I was like, yeah, that's going to be a fine. And it was. Grizzlies, not doing it. They did cut bait with Dylan Brooks, as I mentioned earlier, so I'm not doing the Grizzlies thing. I don't want to talk about them for the next 6 months. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care.